Good morning guys, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to the 3D market commentary to kick off the week. Obviously today is Monday, so welcome to the trading week. My name's Becky, my email address is there, but I believe my face is in the way. So my email address is becky@tradictive.com. So you can email me if you have questions about anything that I covered today. There's also, I'm just going to bring this up, tradewithufos.com/Becky, which is that link that you saw there just on the screen. On this link, the reason I'm showing it to you is number one, you can get a free Trade with UFOs membership here. And once you have that membership, you just fill it in and follow through the steps. There's a few steps to go through, but you just fill it in and follow it through. It's very easy. Once you've got that, you can come down and ask a question in a public space. Once you've got a membership, you can sign in and ask a question. Now, why is that important? It's because rather than you emailing and maybe waiting a little while for a response, it may be that the question you have, somebody else has already asked and the answer's already there. So if you ask in public, we can answer in public, which means other people can get the answers to their questions as well. Maybe the question you have hasn't already been asked, and then you can ask in public, we can answer in public, and then somebody else later down the line will benefit from that same thing. So ideally, you guys would be asking questions through that link, tradewithufos.com/Becky, that you can email if you'd like, which is becky@tradictive.com. Okay, so just need to go through the disclaimers, so let's get those there on the screen. Obviously, disclaimers are important, not just for legal reasons, but for you guys to understand as well that these are demonstrations, they are us showing how we do things. Totally up to you whether you take it on board, whether you ignore it, whether you do something in between, whether you trade live, whether you trade simulated, what you trade and how you trade. Again, we're just giving demonstrations of how we do things, and hopefully it makes sense to you as we go through it. So 3D market commentary, what is it? So essentially every morning we go through an email that we send out. So once you have that free membership, you'll get an email that's sent to you every morning, or US morning, and this will be what it looks like. So this email will go through 5 of the major markets in the world, explaining where we have probabilities, where we might expect price to turn, and volatility. So we go through that in an email. Now we do these sessions so that we can expand on those concepts, explain them a little bit more, to give you a little bit more context to where we got that data from. Now of course that data corresponds with what we have on the charts. So I'll go through it and I'll show you how we got that data and why we got that data. Now it's called a 3D approach, and that's because we go through 3 major elements. So the first thing is market climate. Essentially, where do we have probabilities? Is it up or down, or maybe nowhere? That helps us figure out, are we going to go long or short, i.e. are we going to buy or sell? Now we get that information from this. This is our AutoClimate app. Now the AutoClimate app is a piece of technology. It's a free app, by the way. Once you have your free Trade with UFOs membership, you can have the AutoClimate app for free. Just again, follow it through. This app will scan through market data and come back and tell us where we have probabilities. If we have a thick blue dot, that tells us we have probability to the upside. If we have a thick red dot, then we have probability to the downside. If we have a thin dot of either colour, kind of harder to see, but I guess that's the point, then we don't have probabilities either way. So we're using AutoClimate to really help us out here, just by giving us a thick blue dot, thick red dot, or thin dot of either colour to help us know what we're going to do, buy, sell, or do nothing. So that's the first thing we look at. Then we look at buy and sell UFOs. So UFO stands for unfilled order. That's what we have there. Unfilled orders essentially means, if we think about what moves markets, what push prices up is more buy orders than sell orders. What push prices down is more sell orders than buy orders. They can be there for different reasons, but the fact is it's the orders themselves that are pushing price up and down. Now, there are buy orders that are waiting in markets to be filled. There are sell orders that are waiting in markets to be filled. So if we want to buy where there's lots of other buy orders, because they're more likely to beat the sell orders and push it up. If we want to sell where there's loads and loads of sell orders, because they're more likely to beat the buy orders and push price down. So again, we use technology, we use an app here to help us figure out where that is. And we see these little UFOs. So the green ones are buy UFOs. I'll show you sell UFOs in a minute. The buy UFOs are showing us where we have buy orders, and it tells us on the side here the numbers, the price range, as to where we have that stack of buy orders. So again, that can help us out with entries. That can help us figure out where we're exactly going to buy and sell. And then we're going to go through market volatility. So market volatility is essentially how quickly do we expect these prices to move within given periods of time. So we'll go through that, each of those elements per market. Like I said, 5 of the major markets in the world, we're looking at a daily chart of each of these. So obviously if you trade much higher time frames or much smaller time frames, things may be different. A daily chart is kind of in the middle, that's why we chose that. And we'll be looking at the futures contracts that represent these markets. So if you don't know what futures are, we are looking at essentially a representation of what these markets are. If you do know what futures are, then we're using the continuous contract, okay? Alrighty, so let's start with the first market, which is the S&P. The S&P 500 are the top 500 US stocks within an index, within a basket, and we are looking at the ES, which is the representation of it on futures. Now again, if you don't understand anything I just said, just understand we are looking at the US stock market, essentially. Okay, so market climate on the US stock market, we have a confirmed upwards climate. We know that because we have a thick blue dot, probability to the upside. Now we also have some stats here which are important to understand. And what these stats show us is that usually this market would go up for 8.83 candles. I'm just going to round that up. You can't have decimal places of candles, so we're going to round it up to 9. So normally this market goes up for 9 candles. And we are on candle number 5 to the upside. Meaning, based on what usually happens, we still have a little bit of room for it to move upwards. Of course, sometimes we fall short of what usually happens. Sometimes we go far past what usually happens. That's how we get this kind of average in the middle, right? This usual, this statistic. But it's helpful to know where we have probabilities and how long we have probabilities for that to happen based on usual behaviour. So when it comes to the S&P, we do have a little bit of room for it to continue to move up based on the probabilities. Now, buy and sell UFOs, of course, no sell UFOs on this chart, nothing above us. We see no red UFOs, they don't exist yet. And we have our buy UFOs. So the top one here is 3983.75 to 3933.75. That's the closest stack of buy orders. And we can see that there on the chart. Okay, now market volatility, we would expect a movement up or down in one day of 45.51 points. In 1 week, that would be up or down of 100.18 points. And in 1 month, that would be up or down of 208.54 points. Again, that's movement up or down. It just gives us an idea of how fast we expect these markets to move. But we can see from the fact that we have buy UFOs beneath us, confirmed upwards climate, plus probability that it continues to the upside, that overall we have statistical probabilities to the upside when it comes to the S&P. Okay, so moving on to the next market, which will be oil, and in the meantime you can see there we do various courses. Now you might be somebody that's thinking, I have no idea what these futures contracts are, I want to learn about them. You might be thinking, I want to understand stocks or Forex or maybe trading psychology, how to build a trading plan, how to back test it. Do loads of courses. You can register for them there, they're very affordable, and most of them come with 3-month complimentary access to the UFOs. Now, AutoClimate is a free app anyway, but AutoUFOs is a paid-for app. So again, it can come as part of those courses. Okay, so crude oil is the next market that we're looking at. Here we have a unconfirmed upwards climate. We see that because it's a blue dot, but it's thin, which means unconfirmed, lack of probabilities. Actually, it doesn't really matter that it's an up one or that it's blue. Kind of ignore it anyway if it's not confirmed. So buy and sell UFOs. We have a sell UFO, this red one here. So it's the first sell UFO we see. That's from 66.40 to 63.60. That's the range of price where we have the closest stack of sell orders. Then we have buy orders. That's 57.29 to 54.81. That's this one here. And it's already worked. We can see price came in, hit it here. Hit the top of this stack of buy orders here, went up. Came back, hit the top of the stack of buy orders, went up again. That's what we expect buy UFOs to do, is push price upwards. That's why we use them for our entries. Then market volatility, we would expect a move up or down in 1 day of 1.53 points. In 1 week, we would expect a movement up or down of 3.36 points. And in 1 month, we would expect movement up or down of 7 points even. So again, with oil, we don't really have anything. We're kind of in the middle of our UFOs, not close enough really to either stack of them for us to expect them to move price today. We may have new orders that come in that do that, but in terms of what we have on the chart already, probably not close enough to it. and we don't have a confirmed climate either, which means we don't really know what's going on with oil. Keep away from it. There are other opportunities. You go to different time frames or you go to different markets. Okay, so let's look at the next market, which is gold. But in the meantime, like I said, the UFO app is a paid-for app. It depends what platform you use as to how much it is per month. I'm using TradingView right now, and that's $34 per month on TradingView, or you can have yearly discounts, or like I said, they come as a kind of a package with a lot of the courses. Okay, so gold, we have, once again, an unconfirmed upwards climate, thin blue dot, which means not enough probabilities either way. We kind of ignore it, we move on. When it comes to buy and sell UFOs, just so we're aware, again, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere here, in the sense that we have a stack of sell orders here between 1815.2 to 1872.2, and we have a stack of buy orders here, 1652.8 to 1624.4, and we're just kind of in the middle, not really close enough to either stack of them for them to have a real effect today. Plus we have a thin blue dot, unconfirmed climate, not enough probabilities either way. Again, there are many other markets to trade, there are other time frames to look at. With gold, it's just not something that we need to spend our time doing today. There's other opportunities. Now, just so we understand volatility, we would expect a movement up or down in one day of 18.20 points. In 1 week, that would be, up or down of 40.07 points. In 1 month, it would be up or down of 83.41 points. Okay, so that's gold. To move on to the next market. In the meantime, just to say here, we offer coaching and support, which is for you guys who want to watch us implement this methodology. You want to understand how we're using this technology to place trades in real life environments. We run sessions practically every day. We run them in stocks, forex, futures, options. We also run psychology sessions and sharpening sessions as well. Now, most of them are for free on YouTube, so you can follow us on YouTube and you don't have to pay for anything. But there's also more sort of closed coaching where you guys have access to more of our time, and that is $21 a month. Okay, so moving on to the next market, which is the US dollar. Again, representation of the US dollar, that's what we're looking at here. Just going to switch that down so we see what we need to see. Now, interesting situation with the US dollar. We have a confirmed upwards climate, which is a thick blue dot there, probabilities to the upside. Now, usually, this market would go up for 5 candles, again, rounding that up, and we're on candle number 12, which means we have more than twice gone past what is usual in this market. That means it's less likely to continue to go up and more likely to change direction. Now, it's not to say that it's definitely going to change direction, it just takes away the probability from our upwards climate. So just bear that in mind, the kind of two forces working against each other there. Now, to add to that, we have buy and sell UFOs on top of each other. We have sell orders that we are within right now, literally just there. Numbers are 93.47 to 93.005. That's the closest stack of sell orders. We also have the closest stack of buy orders that is overlapping with that and that we're within right now. Those buy orders are 92.895 to 92.65. So we have confirmed upwards climate, but lack of probability that it continues. We have buy orders below us and sell orders right above us. So we have different forces fighting each other here. I tend to keep out of those fights, let the winner win and then jump on that. Otherwise, it's mainly just gambling. You know, you're just getting involved in something where you don't have real probabilities or statistics of it going one way or another. So when it comes to the dollar, overall, probabilities in every which direction at the moment, kind of a fight going on. Let that play out and see what happens. Now, market volatility, we would expect a movement up or down in 1 day of 0.34 points. In 1 week, it's 0.74 points, and in 1 month, 1.54 points. Now, again with the dollar, it is probably the most influential, it is the most influential market in the world. Even if you don't trade it directly or trade it against other currency pairs, it will affect all of the markets that we look at today and loads of others. So just be aware of what it's doing. Again, at the moment, what it's doing today on a daily chart is kind of up in the air, different forces fighting against each other. So again, best to keep away from it today. Okay, so last market, which is Bitcoin. Now, it says in the meantime there, you can follow us on YouTube, like I said. You might already be watching us on YouTube, but just go to the YouTube channel Trade with UFOs and you'll see a whole bunch of videos on there that can all help you. And of course, it's YouTube, so you get access to it for free. Okay, So market climate, we have a confirmed upwards climate. This is Bitcoin. This is the last market we're looking at, which is Bitcoin. Thick blue dot, confirmed upwards climate, probability to the upside. Now with Bitcoin, we don't know how long it usually goes up for, because it's a relatively new market. It's obviously not as old as the dollar or as the US stock market or as gold or oil. That means that we don't have the statistics yet. We don't know. We've kind of been making it up to give you a number. So we're kind of in the dark as to how long we can expect it to move to the upside based on usual statistics. What we do know is that we're on candle number 5 to the upside. So of course the lower the number in general the better, but we don't know. We're kind of in the dark with that. Now when it comes to buy and sell UFOs, nothing above us, no sell orders above us, but we do have buy orders just here. In fact, we've literally just touched it here. You see that? Price came in, touched it here, and it started to move to the upside, which again is what we expect buy orders to do. The numbers are 57,662.5 to 50,645.0. That's our closest stack of buy orders. Now when it comes to volatility, we'd expect movement up or down in one day of 2,860.86 points. In 1 week, it would be 6,297.89 points. And in 1 month, 13,110.11 points. Now bear in mind, volatility is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. The higher the volatility, usually the higher the risk, which means usually could be higher reward. The lower the volatility, the lower the reward, but the lower the risk. It's up to you as a trader to really figure out which sort of level of volatility you're comfortable with. Cryptos are notoriously more volatile than other markets. That can make them more difficult and more risky. Could also mean there's more reward available. So again, it's up to you to figure out how you feel about volatility and where you go from there. Now that brings me on to the weekly economic calendar, which is actually quite a quiet week this week. What we're looking at here is high impact news. We don't necessarily care what the news is, whether it's good or bad. We don't interpret the news to make a decision on whether or not we trade. We use technology and statistics to help us do that. But we are interested in knowing, depending on the markets that we trade, and again here we're looking at many different markets across the world, is do we have high impact news that could affect the markets in terms of volatility? If we have a lot of high impact news, for example today, today, I don't know when my mouse being right there, we have later on in the day, we have a couple of news points coming out on the Australian dollar that could have high impact news. Again, that might mean that we see a bit more volatility in the Australian dollar or in the Australian markets. We may not. Sometimes the news is already taken into account into the price, sometimes not. But knowing that we have high impact news that could come out that could affect volatility can help us as individual traders to manage our risk tighter if that's what we want to do. We could ignore this entirely, or we could avoid trading the Australian dollar, or we could do things in between, like reduce the amount of trades we place or reduce our percentage risk but still trade. Again, those choices are up to you, depends on how you feel about risk. But knowing that we have high impact news coming out is a helpful thing to help you manage that. So that's me done. We've gone through all of the markets. We've gone through the S&P, gold, oil, the US dollar, and now Bitcoin as well. So 5 major markets. Hopefully whether or not you trade any of them, you trade things that are correlated to them, especially with the US dollar. So hopefully that's helpful. Any questions about what we covered today, you can email me, Becky@tradictive.com, or you can go to tradewithufos.com/Becky, get yourself a free membership. You'll then get that email every day, the email that I've just gone through. You'll get that information every day come through to you automatically. And you can ask questions publicly so that we can answer questions publicly. But we also have, it would be on here I guess. We also have the self-schedule clarification call. So you can schedule a call with one of our experts to talk through, do I need that app? Could I just watch the coaching? Or do I just use the app, or should I do a course? Or maybe the membership will help me, or maybe just one of them, or maybe none of them, or maybe I shouldn't be trading. If you're confused about what to do and you want to talk to somebody, you can self-schedule a clarification call there, talk to one of our experts, and they'll help you figure it out. Otherwise, guys, hope you guys have a great start to the week. I'm just going to come back and put this back on the thing there. Have a great start to the trading week. I hope it goes well for you. I'll be back on Thursday and Friday. My colleague Boyan will be taking it on Tuesday and Wednesday. Hope you guys that celebrated had a great Easter, had a great weekend, and I will see you next time. Take care.